On 2nd December 2010, FIFA President Sepp Blatter announced that the hosting rights of the FIFA World Cup 2022 was awarded to a country that didn't have much of a football scene and would be the smallest country to host the World Cup since Switzerland in 1954. In retrospect, FIFA's former president Sepp Blatter in an interview made jarring statements claiming that the decision was a mistake and that Qatar was a bad choice. This is because the award to Qatar created a litany of doubt and brought to light a shadow operations of the FIFA officials who voted. The voting was marred with allegations of bribery, corruption, and that Qatar was embarking on a sportswashing global agenda to deflect its abysmal treatment of migrant workers and other human rights violations. To understand why the former FIFA president changed tune, let's dive into how Qatar won the World Cup 2022. But before that, let's glean into how FIFA generates revenue. FIFA is a billion-dollar industry, and part of its revenue is derived from the commercialization of media and marketing rights to sport marketing companies, which in turn sell the rights to TV and radio broadcast, major corporate sponsors. They also generate revenue from hospitality rights and ticket sales. Another way FIFA makes money was revealed in an FBI indictment that depicted nefarious ways FIFA generated revenue, that is from racketeering, wire fraud, and corruption. This is following an indictment of 14 FIFA officials that allegedly includes Jeff Webb, Charles Blazer, and Jack Warner. Against this backdrop, now let's delve into how Qatar won the World Cup bid. It all starts with Sepp Blatter's nemesis Mohammed bin Haman, who sought his ouster as president. It's alleged that Mohammed bin Haman bribed Caribbean football officials to support his bid to oust FIFA president Sepp Blatter. There's evidence that Mohammed paid more than 1.6 million to Jack Warner, including 450,000 before the vote. Further, an alleged massive leak from the Sunday Times also showed pictures of bin Haman flying around the world, including on the emirs of Qatar's private jet, lobbying for Qatar's 2022 World Cup hosting bid. And it also alleges that bin Haman bribed CONCACAF delegates and 4 African delegates. It should come as no surprise that the FIFA officials who were bribed by bin Haman were the same ones who were indicted on RICO, wire fraud, and money laundering charges. In an interview, Sepp Blatter points a finger at Michel Platini, a former UEFA president and former France football legend, who also had a hand in Qatar winning the bid. This is because Michel Platini had lunch with the former France president Sarkozy and Al Tamimi, the current emir of Qatar, less than a week before the FIFA vote of the World Cup 2022. It's believed that this lunch with the former president of France, Sarkozy, influenced Michel Platini to vote for Qatar, and he wielded influence over 3 other European FIFA execs who changed their votes to Qatar. This can be attributed to the fact that the former France president Sarkozy had ties with Qatar, including his active role in Qatar sports investments, purchasing Paris Saint-Germain from US private equity group Colony Capital for allegedly 70 million euros. The former president also created business incentives to Qatar, which led to Qatar Airways purchasing 50 Airbuses from aviation group Airbus. In 2011, Al Jazeera, a Doha-based television network, also spent millions on a sports rights deal to French League 1 and UEFA Champions League matches in the country. There exist 2 schools of thoughts that have emerged regarding Qatar's motive. One party argues that Qatar seeks the rewards of sport washing, using it as a tool of soft power to distract us from its egregious human rights violation, while the other party, whose hands were greased, argue that Qatar's motive was that of sport diplomacy. Sport diplomacy has, however, reared its ugly head in a new scandal in Europe called Qatargate. 4 European members of parliament, including the European Vice President Eva Kaili, who has been suspended following a probe into corruption and money laundering that has been tied to her lobbying for Qatar and labeling Qatar as a forerunner of labor rights. As part of the former VP's lobbying for Qatar, she stated that sport diplomacy can achieve historical transformation of a country with reforms that inspire the Arab world. Numerous reports claim that 4 members of parliament were charged by the Belgian police after they discovered 1.5 million euros in their houses in suitcases and in denominations of 200 to 10 euros. New details emerging from the case also claim that one of the members of parliament, Pierre Paiseri, cut a plea deal with the authorities and admitted that they were influenced through bribes to alter the perception of Qatar on its treatment of migrant workers at the European Parliament. The former VP Eva Kaili, who is currently in custody, faces more trouble as her partner Francesco Giorgi confessed to authorities of his role in the Qatar graft scandal. With the rise of the Qatar stadiums from the ashes, so did the rise in death toll to 6,500 of migrant workers who succumbed due to a system that was designed to fail them. Allegedly, there were 2 million migrant workers who are roped in the construction of Qatar's stadiums. These migrant workers get into a cycle of debt through the Kafala system. The Kafala system, or the sponsorship system, is an exploitative labor governance system that is recognized in the Gulf Cooperation Council that employs systemic hostile work environments and abuses due to the fact that it ties the migrant workers' legal status in the country of the employer. The system criminalizes absconding, which is where a worker leaves the country without permission of the employer, or they leave or change the job without the consent of the employer. The system gives unfettering powers to the employer, who have powers to deport the migrant worker or to deny their entry into a country. Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch have accused Qatar of exploitative labor practices, and this can be summed up through forced labor, unpaid wages, and the death of migrant workers. In regards to forced labor, migrant workers in Qatar were made to work excessively long hours with some allegations of denied rest days and threats of wage cuts. It's argued that security guards would work more than 14 hours without day offs for 7 days a week. The migrant workers also suffered from heat exhaustion. This prompted Qatar's government to pass legislation in 2007 that espoused the new working guidelines to avert the heat problem. Migrant workers now had to wake up at 4 a.m. and worked to 11 a.m. and resumed at 3 p.m. This is due to the searing heat and blinding sunshine. However, temperatures continued to soar, and in May 26, 2021, through a ministerial decision, it was prohibited for migrant workers to work between 10 a.m. and 3:30 p.m. But this ministerial decision fell on deaf ears as the Ministry of Labour cracked down on more than 450 work sites that were violating the heat protection policy. Most migrant workers end up in a cycle of debt due to unpaid wages. This is exacerbated by the fact that the migrant workers are known to take out high-interest loans ranging from $1,000 to $3,000 to pay illegal recruitment agencies fees to secure employment in Qatar. This exploitation continues to be prevalent despite the fact that Qatar introduced amendments to its labor law. These amendments include the introduction of the wage protection system that was to ensure compliance of the payment of wages with the labor law, setting up a labor dispute resolution committee that was used by employees to pursue labor grievances against the employers, and the law also established a workers' support and insurance fund to ensure workers with unclaimed wages were paid, and set stricter penalties for employers who failed to pay worker wages. Recently, in September 2020, Qatar introduced a non-discriminatory minimum wage of $274 for all migrants. The migrant workers were also subjected to dilapidated, crowded, and unsanitary living conditions that were susceptible to fire outbreaks. The most repugnant treatment of migrant workers is in regards to their deaths. According to The Guardian, approximately 6,750 deaths of migrant workers have been reported since Qatar was awarded the hosting rights in 2010. There are a myriad of work-related reasons as to the deaths of the migrant workers. However, the Qatar's government chicanery, in a bid to prevent an inquiry into Qatar's exploitative labor practice, attributed their deaths to cardiac arrest and, in some instances, natural causes. With all these human rights violations, the International Labour Organization and the Human Rights Watch have put pressure on Qatar to make reforms to its labor laws and policies. This prompted Qatar to ban the Kafala system through the law number 19 of 2020. Human Rights Watch has also called on Qatar to set up a workmen compensation fund. Amnesty International has also called on Qatar to set aside $400 million to compensate workers. However, Qatar allegedly remains recalcitrant on the compensation fund and accuses its critics of racism and double standards. FIFA advised Brazil that they will need 8 FIFA World Cup stadiums, but in what is considered a political move, Brazil ended up constructing 12 stadiums, much of which succumbed to the white elephant syndrome. In 2014, Brazil was awarded the hosting rights of the FIFA World Cup. Here's what happened to the Brazil stadiums. The Estadio Nacional de Brasília Mané Garrincha. This stadium hosted 7 World Cup games with a 70,000 stadium capacity, and after spending $800 million to construct the stadium is currently in a slow descent as it is being used as a bus parking lot. Number 2. Arenas das Dunas. This stadium hosted 4 matches in the World Cup, however currently it's being used to host weddings and kids' parties. In 2010, FIFA awarded South Africa the hosting rights of the World Cup. This World Cup was plagued by a different white elephant. This is because the theme song Waka Waka performed by Shakira had its fair share of backlash as the song was appropriated from a Cameroonian band, Makossa. Now that that's clarified, let's get back to the other white elephant, the Cape Town Stadium. According to Business Insider South Africa, the stadium spends 55.1 million rands on its upkeep. It's alleged that since the construction of the stadium, it's been unable to generate revenue to maintain its upkeep. 2 is Durban's Moses Mabhida Stadium. It's believed that while most South African stadiums are not generating any income, the Moses Mabhida Stadium has shown significant improvements over the years. It's currently being used as a multi-purpose stadium with restaurants and also includes activities such as bungee jumping. It was also voted the most popular stadium in South Africa. With these stadiums in mind, will the Qatar stadiums join the white elephant's grave? Qatar is believed to have spent $220 billion in infrastructure of the Qatar stadiums, roads, and accommodation. We'll start with the Lusail Stadium that hosted the World Cup final between Argentina and France. The stadium has a stadium capacity of 88,966. The Lusail Stadium will be renovated, the upper tier will be transformed into a community hub and housing, and the rest repurposed to shops, schools, cafes, and medical clinics. The second stadium is the Al Bayt Stadium. The stadium has a tent-like design and hosted the quarter and semi-finals of the World Cup final. The stadium will also be renovated, the upper tiers will be removed and replaced with a 5-star hotel, shopping center, and sports medicine hospital. The Ahmad Bin Ali Stadium, with emblems of the Qatari culture, will be downsized and used as a home for prominent Qatar Star League team, Al Rayyan. The Al Janoub Stadium will also be downsized and will be home to another of Qatar's Star League's professional team, the Al Wakra. The Al Thumana Stadium will also be reduced to a capacity of 20,000 and will be refurbished into a sports clinic and hotel. The Education City Stadium will be fully utilized by the locals and the academic community. The Khalifa International Stadium, which was built by Qatar's former Emir Sheikh Khalifa in 1976, got additional 12,000 seats, and it's believed that the stadium will remain as is. Finally, the first of its kind, Stadium 974. This stadium boasts of its cost-effective sustainability and electric design. It's also the first fully demountable football stadium. It's the most intriguing stadium as it was made out of 974 containers. The stadium number, that is 974, is also synonymous with the dial code for Qatar. Following the dismantling of the stadium, Qatar has pledged that the containers will be donated to other sporting events in developing countries. We've come to the end of this video. Kindly like and subscribe to this channel. Help me get to 1,000 before my birthday in April.